stop. If this is your first episode, you really probably need to go back to the first episode to even if you're familiar with the market, to at least understand what we're doing and our own self-imposed set of rules so that you have a basis to go off of for this episode and future episodes. Now, all of these episodes, the first set of episodes, are archived under the class section at the website. So head to investingtherightway.com. And when you're there, you're going to find a few key pieces of information that I think are pretty good. One of the things you'll find right on the front page is our short list of stocks that we're currently looking at. Now, one way we change the list often. In fact, I think I changed it 3 times today. So if you want to get current on when we change the list, if you look at the very bottom of the page, you'll see a link to the Facebook fan page. You can like that, and of course, I always update that every single time I make a change on our list. Or you could just check the list daily. Also, you will find something called instant alerts. Instant alerts, basically, you don't know what we're going to choose off that short list. It's probably going to be something on that short list, or it may not. But it's probably going to be something on that short list, but you don't know what it's going to be. And the only way to know what that's going to be as it actually happens and not past tense, because we will report those things to you here on the show, is to sign up for instant alerts. It's the only thing we charge for, but basically you will know the moment I go into something, the moment I go out of something within 2 minutes. So we think that's kind of cool. We also have a money back guarantee on that. If at any time you want to cancel that for any reason at all whatsoever, we will refund the last month that we charged you for. So all that information is at the website. There's also a resource tab there, chock full of stuff that we think are great things to keep in your arsenal. Some free, some paid for. And something that we're going to talk about today that's on that resource tab is free, and it's worth $3,000+. I say plus because my contribution was labor, and that's got to be worth something. I don't know.
Yes.
All right. So my quick tip for today is actually the first quick tip that we ever posted, but there's a story associated with it. Okay?
All right.
Okay. And I have to apologize to you. I have to apologize. See, I fussed at you this morning. I was on the phone with Tanner this morning, and I fussed at him pretty hard. And but he didn't know what happened about 20 minutes prior to that conversation. So
he's just letting me know now.
Here's what happened. So I got this friend, this buddy lives in Texas, Brett Foster. You met him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's come up a couple of times. Well, Brett, my wife calls Brett my bromance, because on his way to work, instead of listening to the radio, he just picks up the phone and he calls me, and I talk to him on the phone all the way there. He's doing it through Bluetooth. He's not, he's being safe with it. So he calls me and he said, "Hey, what's up?" Well, yesterday we had suspended the crazy alert status for the market, meaning the market had looked like it had returned to normality, and we were finally, after almost 3 weeks of waiting, ready to go back into investing.
Right.
Okay, and my first time investing. So I've been sitting here waiting for 3 weeks, waiting for normality. We finally get confirmation on normality yesterday. I start pouring through all these stocks and everything. And last night about 11 o'clock, because I couldn't sleep, I found this doozy, and I was all excited about it. And so he calls me, says, "What's up?" And I said, "Well, I think I found a stock." And I start giving him the whole history of it. And I said, "I think I'm going to break one of my rules. I'm actually thinking about getting into the stock before the market even opens. And one of our rules says that we can't invest in a stock. We can't invest in a stock until the first hour of trading is over." So here it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm ready to push the button. And I'm like, "But Brett, it's a really great opportunity." And here's what Brett told me. He said, if you're just going to make up these rules, but you're not going to abide by them, how do you expect me to follow them too? Because I'm teaching him these same rules. I went, "Well," he says, "Didn't you tell these people that these rules were to keep you from avoiding risk, to help you to avoid risk?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "So is this really a great example for them to follow?" Well, he said, "What was that first tip that you gave, the first quick tip you gave?" I said, "Brett, I don't remember." He says, "Yes, you do." He says, "What was it?" I said, "Greed and fear are closely related, and they're usually involved in every bad decision you make." And he says, "Does that mean anything to you? Because it came out of your mouth." And I was like, "Okay, Brett, shut up. I get your point." 20 minutes later, I'm on the phone with this guy. right? And he's all excited because he's ready to get back in the market too. And he's like, I found this stock. And I just love the way that it looks. And it's a perfect opportunity. And I'm really thinking of breaking one of my own rules. And I lit into him with both feet.
He sure did.
So we're kind of guilty of impatience and stuff too. So
yeah.
So I'm going to go back to that first tip. I'm going to repeat it again because it's worth repeating to myself.
Yeah, it to remind me.
Greed and fear are closely related, and they're usually involved with every single bad decision we make.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just about the stock market.
That's right.
All right. So today we're going to take a brief little break. Now we haven't invested because all day today, while we're hovering with our fingers over the mouse keys, things just didn't quite materialize like we were hoping to do. We were waiting for the market to confirm to us what it was going to do so that we could make a decision. And it's just been kind of flat all day long.
That's right.
It started to move again in the direction we want it to. And so we think that probably Monday we'll make a trade. At least that's how we feel about it now. Right. Anything could happen over the weekend. So we're going to take a brief respite. We're going to take
Okay.
what I said. We're going to take a brief respite against all these rules and ground, what am I trying to say? Foundation building principles that we've been discussing up to this point. And we're going to talk about setting up your trading as a business. Okay. Now, you asked yourself a very important question one day. You remember what that question was as you told it to me? What was that question?
My question was, how do the wealthy maintain their wealth?
That is a fantastic question.
And what I found was extremely interesting. When you start looking at historical families like the Kennedys or the Rockefellers, or you pick a family that it seems like they've always had money.
Right.
How come, why, when the person who created the wealth, which is long gone for both families, how in the world do the children and the grandchildren and the nieces and the nephews and people who aren't even related, eventually, how in the world do they keep that wealth? Because last time I checked, most of them aren't doing anything now.
No.
So they're living off of granddad's money.
Yes.
So when I started looking into what they were doing and how they maintain that wealth, I found a little secret, and that is that they set up their corporations, their businesses in such a way where they could avoid taxation even in the event of a person's death.
So no death taxes.
That's right. They disappear completely.
Okay.
So you set them up, you set your business up, you set up your corporation or your structure in such a way where there's successors, people who step in and continue to operate the thing and get paid, even if they don't do anything. And so when I found that out, I started searching out how somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of money, somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of money can get started and start it the right way without having to come back later and fix it.
Okay. So you mentioned corporations. So the first key is we need to set up a corporation. Now, I think we need to touch base on why we would even consider wanting to do this when we're talking about trading in the stock market. Well, that's because the IRS looks at trading almost like you went to the casino.
Yes.
Okay. So every time you win on an investment and you make money and you take profit from that investment, the IRS looks at that as capital gains. And they charge you capital gains tax, and I don't know what, 34% or something crazy, stupid like that. And that's insane.
Yes.
And if you lose on a trade, they don't give a flip. They don't take that into consideration at all. Not like a business.
That's right.
If you were a business and you lose money, you can write that off. It's an expenditure, okay? So none of that comes into play. You get triple the taxation that you would normally as a family or your own personal income. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up a corporation, and not just any corporation. What type?
It's a C corporation. what you would do is set it up with a president, vice president. You don't have to have all those. So some people get afraid of the name of corporation because they think, well, I've got to go get five or six people involved with me. But in all truth, you only have to have one.
I could be the vice president, the president, the chief exec, whatever. All those titles, I am the entire board of directors. Me.
That's right.
I can carry all those titles.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, as a corporation, corporations are taxed at a 27% rate, at least currently.
But we're going to avoid that entirely.
We're going to be able to avoid that because of how we're setting it up. Corporations, if you do it correctly, and if you follow the instructions that we have on the website, you will actually be able to put yourself in a position where you'll pay zero tax on everything that you make through the corporation.
Through the corporation.
For the corporation, that's correct.
Okay. So I think you said the C Corp, that's what we're doing, a C Corp. The C Corp is actually going to manage an entire other business.
That's correct.
And that other business is what's going to actually do the trading.
That's right.
Okay. So C Corp manages a what type of entity?
You get to take your choice. You take your pick, depending on where you live. We set up a limited partnership, and
not an LLP, but an LP.
An LP. There's a difference because one is for like lawyers and real estate and other people like that. We're setting up just a general limited partnership.
Okay.
And the reason why we use the limited partnership structure is because let's say in our society, people they frequently sue other people.
Yeah.
And so let's say that we didn't have a corporate structure or a limited partnership, and in your personal trading account, Jimmy, you had $300,000 or $400,000.
Preach it, brother.
Yay!
I can feel it.
Exactly. But let's say that you went and you got into a car accident, and for some odd reason, your insurance had expired.
Okay. Then that are coming after me.
Yeah, exactly. They're coming after you for repairs to their vehicle, bodily harm, all different kinds of things that could be a result of that. Well, guess what? If you have a trading account in your name, that is fair game.
They can
come and get it. So what we've done is we've set up a limited partnership because by definition, a limited partnership does nothing.
Okay. So the C Corp, which is flat taxed at 27%. We're going to discuss how to avoid that in just a second. Turns around and opens a limited partnership.
That's right.
I happen to be the entire board of directors for both. Okay. The limited partnership turns around and opens the trading account in its name.
That's right.
Okay. And the limited partnership is what's called a pass-through entity.
Yes.
Now, explain what you mean by that. What is a pass-through entity? It's not what you mean, it's what it is.
A pass-through entity isn't taxed in and of itself.
It passes through the earnings to me.
And losses if you have them, or expenses.
So unlike my personal account, if I lose on a trade where I can't write that off as an expenditure, and where if I win on a trade, I have to pay capital gains tax. Unlike that, even though it's passing that income to me, I can now write off any losses as an expenditure.
That's right.
And I'm flat taxed at 15%. Okay. Now I talked to, I found this I told you I found this a attorney, IRS bookkeeping person that actually specializes in this type of stuff, and he said that we could actually probably get it even lower than 15% depending on how you file for the year. All right. So let's say my limited partnership doesn't open up a trading account. Let's say it opened up a car wash. And Billy Bob goes through the car wash and it eats his car.
Yep.
Okay. And he's mad, and he has every right to be. And he comes after the limited partnership. Your car wash ate my car. You're going to pay for it and then some.
Right.
Okay. I could effectively say, okay, well, I have to file bankruptcy on my limited partnership. They can't come after me.
Nope.
They can only come after the limited partnership.
That's right.
So my personal assets are protected.
That's correct.
The limited partnership could say, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry, and file bankruptcy and give it all to them.
That's right.
But the C Corp is never touched, and it just turns around and opens up another limited partnership and a new car wash. Okay, so there would be some damage, but we're minimizing the kind of damage that we have.
Yes, so let me ask you a question. Since we are talking about investing, the limited partnership, the only thing that it has done is open an investment account.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask another question. Does an investment account do anything?
It invests in stocks.
But does it do anything that can cause any kind of bodily harm to anybody?
No.
Damage to anybody?
No.
No, it can do nothing. It's not going to injure anybody. It's not going to get involved in a car accident. It's not going to have something burn down or something go wrong. So since it can't do anything because it's just an account on paper and on a computer somewhere, it can never be sued, so you can never even lose it, period.
Right.
The only thing that can ever be sued is the corporation. But because the corporation isn't doing anything either, except for sitting at a house.
I never thought about that. The limited partnership is never going to be in a position to have a lawsuit happen to it.
Exactly
it never interacts with anybody else.
That's exactly
It doesn't have customers. It doesn't own a car that's going to run into somebody. It doesn't have. Now, all right, so let's back this up. I'm on the board of directors for the limited partnership and the C Corp. Okay, let's say. Now, how we need to back up even further.
Sure.
We said that we could avoid taxation altogether. You still have to file taxes.
Yes.
But that 27% flat tax could go to zero on one condition, that everything that it gets turns around and goes out as an expenditure. So the idea is to funnel any money from the limited partnership to the corporation as only necessary for making the corporation work. So if the C Corp has to file taxes and has to hire somebody to do that, you only funnel from the limited partnership to the C Corp the necessary funds to pay that bill.
And then you make sure you document it. And the documents are
online,
available online for free.
Yes. So now when Tanner asked himself this question, you actually spent 6 months trying to figure this out.
Yes.
Then you found an attorney that specialized in writing up the bylaws that govern how you run your business.
That's right.
Okay. And you paid $3,000 for that paperwork.
Yes, I did.
Okay. So that's why I said $3,000 plus, because he then gave that to me and I scanned it into the computer and I electronically removed any reference to his business and his name and instead put in parentheses, your corp name here, your name here. And it took me 4 days to do it. So that's why I say $3,000 plus, because 4 days of labor has to be worth something.
Yes, it is.
Probably not a whole lot because it's me we're talking about. We put that onto the website and all you have to do is download it, edit it in any kind of Word doc program and change and put your stuff in there, and now you have your own bylaws. So that $3,000 worth of paperwork is now free.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing that you would have to expend is opening up a C Corp, which is $100 in the state of Oklahoma. I don't know where it is where you live. Right. You have to open up a limited partnership. That was $50. So my entire expense, thanks to Tanner, was 150 bones. Okay, all I had to do is go through and change my paperwork. That's now, cool. You also did some investigating about which is the best state to open up a corporation out of, and you really want to do some research on your own as well, because there are some bad states to open up a corporation in, and there's some really fantastic states to open up a corporation in. The best state you found was?
Nevada.
Now there's a condition. If you're not a resident of the state of Nevada, you have to employ the services of something called a registered agent.
Yes.
Okay, and the registered agent fees a year in Nevada were what when you?
At least $900. The reason why it is the best state is because it has the most entanglements, and by entanglements I mean the most amount of documentation that's got to be filled out every year.
They got a bunch of laws.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But it provides the most protection against lawsuits or loss of assets. However, in close second is states like Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yay. and also Texas. Texas is a really good place as well.
So if you're in Oklahoma or Texas, you don't even probably have to look outside your own state.
That's right.
If you're in states like Wisconsin, that's not a very good one.
No. California.
California, horrible. You know, their laws just really stink on ice.
Right.
So if you're going to look to go to another state, the good news is if you don't choose Nevada, which, like he said, the cheapest registered agent fees you found were $900 a year. You can register out of Oklahoma, which is arguably the second best state.
Right.
And I found a registered agent for you for $50 a year.
That's fabulous.
And that information is on the resource tab as well. So I provided their phone number and stuff, and you just call them and they'll answer any question. Basically what you would do, though, is if you're outside of this state and you wanted to register in the state, you'd contact them first, you would register with them, they would become your registered agent, and then you would open your C Corp because they have to be listed on your documentation as your registered agent since you live outside the state.
Right.
Okay.
Then you would consult the Secretary of State's office.
Okay, so the Secretary of State is through whom I open the C Corp and the limited partnership.
That's right.
So if you live outside the state and you want to register in the state, the order of business is contact a registered agent.
Yes.
Register with them.
Right.
Go to the Secretary of State for Oklahoma.
Their websites, you don't even have to go there physically.
All right.
So
they got a website and it's pretty easy to use. And register them. That's going to cost $100 for a C Corp.
Right.
Once that's been finalized, okay, once you get your confirmation back that your C Corp is open, then you open a limited partnership. That's about $50. Okay. And is it a year? $100 a year, $50 a year?
It's $50 a year.
Okay.
And it's $100 a year for the corporation. But what it does is it covers what we call a business activity tax in Oklahoma.
Okay.
So every state has their own name for it. So if you are going to open your business in another state, you would need to research with the Secretary of State's office or the equivalent, a business management office, in order to find out what it is you need to do in order to stay compliant. Because opening the business is the first step in protecting your assets and also being able to gain the benefits through the IRS code in order to be able to save taxes. You have to maintain it at least once a year. In the state of Oklahoma, it's only once a year.
Okay.
So you would want to do that research outside of the state if that's what you intend to do. I would highly recommend it using the state of Oklahoma, or if you're capable, use the state of Las Vegas, or not Las Vegas, but the state of Nevada.
Yeah, they're the best state. It's just expensive.
Absolutely, it's expensive. So the order would be to contact a registered agent, then go with the Secretary of State's office, wait for that paperwork to be processed and approved. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. It's an electronic type thing. And then print out your paperwork.
Then do the limited partnership.
That's right. Do the limited partnership after the corporation, and wait for that paperwork to come back, and then you could, all this time you've been working on it, you can be working on the paperwork and getting it ready, because you will need your governing documents for both organizations in order to open up checking accounts.
Right. And an EIN number.
And an EIN number, which is easy to get off of irs.gov.
Yeah, that's super simple. You can get your EIN number for your C Corp, which you would do first, which will take you about 20 seconds. I mean, it's really super fast. Print it off right there, you're done. Now, after that, though, you have to manually process a document for your limited partnership, because the C Corp is opening the limited partnership. You have to follow a little bit different process. It's still pretty cut and dry. It's not complicated, but it will take time, and you will have to fax that document in. Right. So, and it won't cost you anything, though. Totally free.
They want you to have a number so you can pay taxes.
Absolutely. All right. So let me see if I got all this straight.
Okay.
The paperwork that's on the website are the bylaws for both the C Corp and the limited partnership. It's those bylaws that govern how I'm going to run my business.
That's right.
We need to talk about a few things that you made sure that were in the bylaws that are going to be very beneficial to them in just a second.
Okay.
So the paperwork for that is on the website. It's completely free. You will have to edit it to put your own stuff in. There's no rush for that. You could take months to do it if you really wanted to procrastinate over it. Don't procrastinate over it. But the paperwork is free. Download it. Do it now. Okay?
Right.
Then you need to get with a registered agent if you're not going to register in your own state. Open up a C Corp. The C Corp then turns around and opens a limited partnership. Once all that's established, I open up an EIN number for my C Corp. Once I have that, I open up an EIN number for my limited partnership.
That's right.
By that time, I've finally edited all my documents because there's roughly 100 pages each for each section. And you're going to have to go through each section, read it. It's not that complicated to understand. Do not call me for questions on what any of that means. I am not an attorney, okay? Go to somebody else for that. But they will significantly cheapen your route into getting into all of this.
No question.
Now, what I'll also do for you, I'm going to see if I can, I'm pretty sure he'll say okay, because he's doing this as a business, but the guy that we found to do our taxes and he understands trading. He actually traded for a number of years doing covered calls. So he intimately understands the market, and he intimately understands what it is that we're doing with the C Corp, LP type thing. And he's also licensed and trained by the IRS, took a 30-hour test. It took 30 hours to take the test, okay, to be able to legally represent you to the IRS.
Wow.
So, and he's licensed to work in every state. So I'm going to get his permission. I'm pretty sure he's going to say yes because he does this as a business, and we'll list his contact information at the resource tab as well. So I just thought about that. I don't know why I haven't done it since.
Okay.
So did I leave it? Okay, no. We need to talk about some of the things that you've included in that paperwork. What are some things that are going to be beneficial to me that's in that paperwork, either in the limited partnership bylaws or the C Corp bylaws?
Particularly in the corporation bylaws. You know how we've already said that in order to avoid the tax, you have to spend it as an expenditure for the corporation. Well, one of the things that corporations can do is they can reimburse employees for expenses.
Okay,
like the cost of trading, the cost of training, the fee for receiving text alerts is something that can be written off, just completely written off and never paid taxes on it.
Okay, so the $3 fee for every trade I pay.
Oh yeah.
I write that off.
That goes away.
Yeah.
It's written off. You never pay taxes on it.
Banking fees.
Banking fees. Anything associated with running this entire business can be written off and you avoid taxation on it. On top of that, see, that's not the most lucrative part. The most lucrative part is, let's say that you decided to go on a training class at a very exotic location.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah.
Training class on a cruise.
Yes, that sounds like fun. But let's say that you did that and your expense for the cruise was a little inflated because of the type of class that you're going to be taking. Okay. Well, you can spend that money out of the corporation for training your president on training yourself on managing the limited partnership and write that entire expense off as a business expense.
Okay.
On top of that, you can set up a program or the paperwork's already there where you can reimburse, your corporation can reimburse you for medical expenses.
Okay, that's a big deal right now.
Yes, it is.
Because no matter where you sit in the spectrum, unless you fell to a tax bracket where the government's just going to pay for it, you get a subsidy. Healthcare went through the roof.
Yes.
Okay, and if you're going to be trading, I don't want to be in that lower tax bracket. I want to be in the bracket that says, you're in the Millionaire Boys Club. That's what I want. That's my goal.
Right.
Okay, and I believe that we're going to get there very, very quickly. We're going to talk about goal setting in a future episode. So I can whatever the medical expense is, the C Corp, now we've already got the documentation in there.
Yes, it's in there.
Normally what you would do is you would have a meeting with your board of directors. So I would look in the mirror and I'd say, Jimmy, and myself would reply back, yes, Jimmy. I think we need to pass a decree, if you will, that the corporation is going to cover the expenses of this for our president. That's what you would normally do. You document it, and from that point on, you're good to go.
That's right.
Well, you would need to do that to cover medical expenses. That's already included in the documentation.
That's correct.
Now, let me ask you a question, hypothetically. Let's say, now I want to shift as much of my own expenses to the corporation. I would like to do that. Okay. So minimize my personal expenses, taking on the expenses with the company so that, it's still the same amount of money. It's still the same money that's paying for whatever I want. I'm just making the C Corp do it so it's listed as an expenditure.
Right.
And one of the things that I would like to do is I would like, the board of directors for the corporation, me, myself, and I, to pass a decision that transportation costs are paid for or reimbursed. I would like a car allowance. So I can meet with myself and pass that and pay that.
Yes.
And then that's an expenditure. And so I only take from the limited partnership and give to the corporation is what's necessary that we agree to. Let's say it's $500 a month.
Right.
Awesome.
You got it.
I could probably, depending on the laws of the state I live in,
I
could probably even do that for a housing allowance.
Very possible.
So as I begin to make money with this, and you better help me make a bunch of money off of this, no pressure. As I begin to make money with this, I'm going to shift some of that responsibility to the C Corp and minimize the expenditure out of my own personal pocket because a car allowance is not tax deductible, unless I prove it for business. But the C Corp, totally tax free now because it's an expenditure.
That's exactly right.
I'm liking how this sounds.
Now, here's another thing that you can do with a C Corp, which is really something that I've looked at. Our whole goal is to work people out of their normal jobs where they can trade for a living.
Yes.
So inside the corporation, you can actually set up a retirement account. Okay. Which means that you can roll your 401k from previous employers or IRAs that are being held elsewhere. And you can roll all of those into a 401k or 401a inside the corporation that you own, that you control.
Now, the paperwork for that is not included,
no,
but
not.
The structure is there to support it.
That's correct. And at some point in time, that paperwork will be included, I'm sure. But the nicest part about it, you know how a 401k inside a 401k, they pretty much tell you, okay, well, you can invest in this, and this, and you have to pick from what they've got set up. Well, inside the corporation where you're the president and you're the one who's determining what kind of decisions are made inside the 401k or 401a, depending on which structure you set up.
All right.
Now you can actually take that money that is in your retirement account that had all kinds of restrictions and regulations around it and decide that you want to trade it in the stock market or, for that matter, any other profitable venture that's within certain regulations, and we'll get to that eventually. So you could literally start trading, trend trading, or trading in the stock market using the same system that we're talking about.
In a whole separate account.
In a separate retirement account. And the nicest part about it is you can gain access to that money
without waiting for... Well, you have to first fill out this form, and then you have a 3-week cooling period, and then
or waiting for your 55 and a half, or all of that kind of stuff. Now, if you took the cash and just simply spent the cash, now you'd have to pay the 10% penalty and all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
But we're actually talking about leaving it in an investment vehicle and making money off of it in that investment vehicle and having more control over it, because now your corporation is the one making those decisions on what you can invest in through your 401k.
So nothing we're talking about here is illegal. In fact, it's perfectly legal.
Absolutely.
Because all the rich people that came before you paid politicians to write laws to keep them wealthy.
Yes.
And we're going to ride in their wake.
Yes.
So that's all we're really doing, is we're taking advantage of the laws that most common people don't know about. And that's a shame.
Yes, it is.
You know, but
part of why we're doing this is because we want people to know how to improve their life. The whole system, the whole structure, this is just my opinion.
Okay.
But the whole system and the whole structure has been set up to maintain the old hierarchy system, where you keep the workers, and you keep the middle class, and you keep the upper class, and the extremely wealthy, the extremely wealthy. So in order to break the cycle for families, I used to think that it was just simply going to college. But going to college doesn't necessarily break that cycle.
No.
You may still maintain whatever class you were in. And so in order to improve your quality of life, or in order to provide wealth that you can pass out or give away to other people, nobody says you have to keep all the money you're going to make. In fact, I don't encourage you to keep everything you make, because I believe that giving things away is a biblical, scriptural principle. And when you give things away, especially when you give it away with the right attitude, it's going to come back to you. It may not come back to you exactly in the same shape and form that you gave it away in, but it's going to come back to you, and it comes back to you in blessing. And that's the most important thing, is blessing and favor from God.
You know, I had a couple of questions that came in that I haven't told you about.
Okay.
One of them I probably need to pull up here so that we can ask real quick. It was a really good question. And then one of them that came across Facebook. The one that came across Facebook said, you know, Jimmy, I watched your photography show for a number of years. I really liked it. I'm very interested about what you're doing on the investment side of the house, but I really don't know anything about Tanner. Can you tell me some information about Tanner, about what his background is? And I started to go into all of that, but the reality is it doesn't really matter. If you trust me, then trust me to hang out with the right people. And ultimately, you don't want to take his word for it anyway.
No.
The Bible says, if we're going to use biblical references, the Bible says you judge a tree by its fruit. Okay? And if you watch this show for 5 or 6 episodes, you're going to see the fruit. It won't be able to be hidden.
Right.
If we make money, if we lose money, you're going to know it. If we make stupid, foolish decisions, which both of us were on the verge of doing this morning, you're going to know it. Okay? We're either going to adhere to our own rules, or we're going to break our own rules and look like schlubs.
Right.
We're either going to make money, we're going to lose money. Okay, and the fruit will be on the tree. You will not be able to hide it. So it really doesn't matter what your pedigree is. It doesn't matter how much college you have, who you trained under, what businesses that you've worked for, and what the title of those positions were that you're held. It only matters what is the fruit on the tree. And so I encourage you to watch the show. Don't jump into anything that we say. Don't follow along behind. I'm not telling. We don't give investment advice.
Right.
You know, don't invest in the stocks that we're going to invest in. You look for the fruit on the tree. And you just saying that just brought that to my attention. But here's a really good question that came in from Nicholas. Nicholas says, hi, Jimmy, I followed you on the photo site. I'm interested in the stock thing I got going, but I really, before I really get into it, there's a problem that I don't live in the USA. He goes on to say that he's a citizen of the UK and living in France.
Wow.
Okay, that's a complicated situation.
Yes, it
is it possible for people that live outside, that are not U.S. citizens, living outside the U.S., somebody in Canada, somebody in France, is it possible for them to invest in the U.S. stock market?
Yes, it is.
But
the structure, everything that they have to do is completely different than what we've done.
Yes. So in other words, yes, you could be a citizen of another country and invest in our economy, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're investing in our business and our economy. You can use the same structure and rules that we're imposed upon ourselves, but how you go about trading that, how you open up a trading account, who you opening a trading account with, and the rules that you have to follow are dictated by your own country, and I'm sorry, but you're going to have to do your own research.
That's correct.
But they do it all the time.
Sure.
When I opened up my e-option account, it actually asked me, what country you're a citizen of.
Right.
So even e-option handles accounts for people that live outside the U.S. and that are foreign citizens. Mm-hmm. So they're not even citizens of the U.S., expatriated or anything. They're actually a foreign citizen.
Right.
So, and Scott Trade and E-Trade and all those companies will do that for you. And there's probably somebody local within your own economy. If you're a French resident, if you're a German resident, I guarantee you there is a company that allows you to trade stocks on the U.S. market.
Right.
We are widely traded. A U.S. resident can trade stocks in Japan on the Nikkei. Mm-hmm. How you say that?
That's right.
So yes, but we don't know the details.
That's right. And as far as the class that we just did about corporate structure and business structure, that would be something you'd have to check for yourself in your country of residency.
Everything we discussed is for U.S. only.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, brother. I think I understand. I think we've covered everything for that. The bottom line is no. Oh, here's a good question. Okay. I'm interested. Speaking outside. Pretend like I'm somebody else. Okay, so I'm interested in doing this whole C Corp limited partnership thing because I want to keep more of my money. Okay, I like that. Should I wait to get into the stock market until I have all of that open? That's a question you can't really answer, is it?
Right. It's up to them. The thing is opening up a corporation, that all takes time.
Yeah, it took time.
Yeah, it does. And
aggravating time.
And so in the meantime, you may actually open an individual trading account, especially if you're not dealing with a whole lot of cash. Mm-hmm. Just to get your feet wet, because it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed on what you're looking at and what you're doing. That's why on at least one of the videos we said watch this video over and over and over and over again, because you're going to want to do what is represented on that 10-minute video. You're going to want to do that in a period of 1 to 2 minutes.
Right.
So you're not going to have enough time to actually sit there and go, okay, well, let me cross-reference, the video and then do it. And so you want to familiarize yourself, get yourself used to the process, go through even a couple of dry runs with the instant alerts and take a look at what we're doing, and then take a look at what that stock is doing on telechart or on a charting software in order to see what we're seeing. Because you can always look backwards in history, but the truth is it's never the same unless you're doing it live.
Well, seeing the length of time that it took me when my friend asked me for my personal advice, Brett, the guy that fussed at me this morning, and then I turned around and fussed at you. As I went through that process and seeing how long it took to do something like that, and knowing that was delaying me from doing anything in the market, it really was. Yeah, it tied my hands up. It didn't matter how much money I had if I was now dependent on completing that process, which took several weeks.
Yes.
He said, well, should I wait and do the same thing? And I said, Brett, if it were me, I would just open up a personal account, and you can start that whole process whenever you get ready. In fact, we're approaching the end of the year. Do it in January.
That's right.
Okay.
That way you don't have to file any corporate documents at the end of the year, depending on what kind of date you set your corporation up with.
Now you can actually open a separate, I could be in a personal account trading.
That's right.
Turn around and parallel open another trading account with the same company, E-option, whoever, doesn't matter. And then parallel transfer that money from one trading account to the other trading account if it's under the same roof.
That's right.
Okay.
It has to be under the same roof.
So I'm an E-option. I can take the money in my personal trading account in E-option and transfer it to the limited partnership account.
Actually, the same roof would actually mean the same titled account name. So,
would it be easier just to take all the money out?
Yes, take the money completely out of the trading account. And the reason why we turn around and we have to open a checking account in the name of the limited partnership is because no brokerage house will receive funding from a third-party individual.
Right.
And even though you're the one who owns the limited partnership, you're now a third-party individual. So in order to fund the account on a limited partnership, you have to have a checking account that's open in the limited partnership's name. So the process would be open the individual account, go ahead and start trading depending on how much money you've got. Start trading, get your feet wet as you decide, when you decide to do the corporate structure, the business structure. Start that process. It'll take you a little while to get it done. In the meantime, you're still working on trading, and you're still getting your bearings about you as far as it's concerned. And then when the business gets set up and you get the business account open, the checking account open, then you take the money out of your individual account, okay, as a wire or
and fund
as a check.
Your corporate or limited partnership.
That's exactly right. Put it in the checking account under the limited partnership, and then put it back in.
Okay.
Yeah, because the brokerage house will reject the money if it comes from you.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really make any sense, but it's a regulatory thing, and they have to have it that way. So.
Okay. All right. So I think that wraps up this week. Again, all this information is at the resource tab. You just have to download it. And you're just being silly if you procrastinate on that. Now, it will take you some time to go through each page of document, because we're talking 200 total pages, and putting your information in, your corporate name, your personal name. One of the things that you may want to consider, this is how I did it with me. I did it as a partnership. So my wife is the partnership. Now, that may make some people nervous. Open it up under your own personal. That's a decision you have to make. Right. But having a partnership for your spouse is already built into it. You just have to exclude that piece out if you didn't want to include, your spouse. We already went through. We've been married for 16 years now. We've been married for 16 years, so we went through the rough patch already where we almost got divorced. So we're pretty sure that we're going to stick it out. So. But anyway, all right, so next week, if for some reason we don't do our trade, okay, because I really want to have that as an episode where I actually walk through the entire process of verifying that it's charting like it should, that it's got the volume that it should, and doing some history on the company and looking through news and finding out their financials and stuff. I want to record and document all that. So you'll have to come over to the house and use my fancy setup.
We can do that.
I'd like for that to be that next episode. But if that doesn't happen, what we're going to talk about next week is a little bit of charting. We're going to dig into charting a little bit more. We'll introduce them to Wharton 2000, TC 2000, explain to them how that works. We'll start talking about what they're seeing on the page, because honestly, it looks like a bunch of gobbledygook when you first take a look at it. And we'll start that process. There's no way that we can cover all that in one episode, but we can cover a lot.
Yes, we can.
So, you have anything to add?
I just want to bless you.
You have, Tanner. You have no idea. Let me tell you something. When he came to me, Tanner is a worship leader at my church. That's how I know him. And we would talk as we would go to practice. I'm on the worship team too. And we would talk a little bit. How are you doing? What are you doing? How's the process working? And he came to me and said, I'd like to give you the paperwork. And I knew it was $3,000 worth of stuff. And that was the actual beginning point for this show, because I said, well, I'm just going to give it away to somebody else, right? He says, yeah. And so that was the actual beginning point, the footprint, I think, for this particular show. He has a great heart. And so you should write him a personal email. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I appreciate everything that you've done for me and my family. And I know these guys, like I said, once the fruit begins to bear itself out on the tree, I know they're going to appreciate it too. So thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week. We'll either make our first trade or we'll dig into charting just a little bit deeper.
All right.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.